Emmanuel, and he will remain with you. My name is Denise Williams. I'm 28 years old. My mother is a drug addict, an alcoholic. My father, I never knew him. Not because he was a deadbeat dad, but because my mother was very promiscuous. It's when I was 2 months old, my mother gave me away to my auntie, who couldn't have children at the time. She took me away to America, where she raised me as her child. After some time, God blessed her, or she got pregnant mysteriously, and she began to abuse me. For those of you who know America very well, you know that they frown upon that. So child services came, took me away, and locked her up. She got bail. When she finally got bail, my family began to hate me. That is when my childhood just became a disaster, because my family was saying that I had brought shame and disgrace onto them. I've locked up my grandmother's favorite daughter. So they were treating me terribly. That's when they derived the plan to trick me and send me away. They told me I'll be going to see my favorite uncle. I'll be with my favorite uncle in Chicago until the tension cooled down. So I was excited because, like I said, that's my favorite uncle. They packed my stuff and they took me to the airport. When I got to the airport, by this time I was about 12 years old. I was 12 and a half, actually. And my auntie told me that she's sending me, you guys have to know that I thought she was my mother. She didn't tell me that I had another mother anywhere else. She raised me as her own. So she now told me that she's sending me to my mother, and then she slapped me. So I started crying. Now, I don't know, at the time I hadn't really heard what she said very well, so I was kind of confused, and I got on the flight. When I was sitting on the flight, because of my continuous tears, a flight hostess came to me and she asked me what the problem was. I told her, oh, my mother just slapped me. And she saw there was a tag hanging on my neck, because that's the normal procedure if a minor is traveling on their own. She took this tag off my neck, reached into it, and she said, okay, so you're going to Brussels. I had no idea where that was, by the way. So I told her, no, I'm going to Chicago to see my uncle. And then she's like, no, this flight is going to Europe. In fact, after that, it's going to Freetown. And I was so confused. I didn't really know what was going on, because I had never traveled on my own before. So she told me she would help me as much as she could. We landed in Brussels. She took me to a waiting room because I was in transit for such a long time. She fed me. I think the Holy Spirit told her to. She fed me and she kept me safe until it was time for me to board my next flight. She took me to the point where I could get on the next flight to Freetown. I got on the flight. I was still confused because I was trying to remember what my mother had told me. She's sending me to my mother. I'm just, crying and confused, and maybe I didn't hear her very well, and why am I not in Chicago, or whatever it may be. I get to Freetown. Before the flight could land, there was an announcement on the loudspeaker that I'm sorry, but we won't be able to move on to Liberia because there's a war going on there. So we're gonna take you guys to a hotel nearby, and then whenever there's a ceasefire, then we'll be able to move on to the next destination. So I got to the hotel. When I got to the hotel, I watched everyone as they checked into various rooms, and I was the last one sitting there because I didn't know what to do. I'm sitting there, and then the receptionist comes to me, and she's like, what's going on? Are you traveling alone? Because I see this tag on you. I was like, yes, I'm traveling alone. She's like, so what are you going to do now? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to sit here because I don't have a room or anything. These people, God touched their heart, and they gave me a room. They sheltered me, and they fed me for 2 weeks. Within the 2 weeks, just before we could get to the third week, they said there was a ceasefire in Liberia and that flights were now landing in that country. So the receptionist now took me to the airport with the rest of these people that were going to Liberia, and I'm standing on the line waiting to get on the flight. I'm standing on the line waiting to get on the flight. I was so sad because, like I said, as a normal young child traveling by yourself, and you just left your family and you're all alone, you're scared, you're panicking, you're depressed, you don't know. So you keep crying. I was constantly crying. Again, the Holy Spirit sent another person into my life. A lady asked me why I was crying, and I told her, well, I've been traveling and there's just so many things going on. I'm going to Liberia and I know nothing about Liberia. She was like, okay, what part of America are you coming from? And I was like, I'm from New York. And she was like, oh, what part of New York? And I say Staten Island. She's like, oh, okay, I used to live in Staten Island. Which part of Staten Island? I told her. She now told me that she was friends to my grandmother. So she would aid me. She would be with me until we got to Liberia. So I sat next to her. She was consoling me and everything. We get to Liberia because there was a lady that used to always come and visit my mother, which was her best friend. Her name was Gloria Menger, and she was the only person I knew about, like, that came from Africa. So I told her I'm going to this lady because that's the only familiar name that I knew. When I told her about the lady, this woman that God had introduced me to was also a very big person in that government that was about to fall. So they all knew themselves because this Gloria lady worked at one of the biggest banks in Liberia. So they knew themselves. So she was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to take care of you until I can put you in the hands of Gloria. I was like, fine. As soon as we landed in Liberia and we got to this lady's house, the war started again. There was nothing I could do. I was ducking and hiding. It was crazy. People were dying. You could actually see dead bodies swollen on the streets. It's not something that anyone here would want to see. You know, as a young person, I didn't know what was going on. I was just so confused. So when we finally found Gloria, which was a month later, when I was deposited into her hand, she now sat me down and explained that she was told to take me to my mother. So I tried to ask her what she meant by that. And she was like, yeah, your biological mother. But the problem here is we can't find her because she's not normally at the same place for a long period of time because she was on hard drugs, as in cocaine, crack, alcohol, all these things. So you have to look for her in ghettos. You see, it took some time. Now, you see, during the war, every little bit that you have counts. So Gloria started getting tired of me because I was another mouth for her to feed. You know, she started getting anxious, and she went to the closest person that she knew that my mom would pop into that house any other time, which was my mother's older sister. We get to my mom's older sister's house. My new cousins started wearing my stuff from the States. I wasn't really paying attention to it. I was there for months in and months out. They could not find my mother. Finally, I'm sitting there one day having lunch, and they tell me that they finally found my mother. She's outside. I was just tired of all this putting me here, that I went out. I was like, okay, fine, this is a sign of relief. I'm going to see the woman that, okay, gave birth to me. This is my traveling stops here. This is my last bus stop, as we say in Ghana. I get outside. I pass by my mother, because I would never expect that this woman gave birth to me. She was dirty. She was smelly. She was holding a child. I mean, she looked like someone I would not even talk to on a normal day. I go to the next cleanest lady that I saw. And I said, are you my mother? And she said, no, she's not. And that's when I heard my name from the back. When this lady called my name from the back, when I turned around, my heart sunk. Congregation, my heart did not sink with a sigh of relief. I was just discouraged. I knew that that's it for me, you know. Nothing good is about to happen in my life. I walk towards her. She says, it's time for me to go with her. I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't have a choice. We pack my stuff. We follow her to where she stayed. She lived with 3 other men in an unfinished building. The first 3 days, I'm not going to lie to you, they were heaven. I got mother love that I had missed for months on months, you know. She gave me eggs. She treated me nice. The 3rd day, she sat me down and she said, look, this is not America. You have to grow up now. You're going to become a woman now. I didn't know what she meant at that time. She would leave me in the house for days with these men, with her newborn baby. And I would take care of my little brother all the time. And I would ask these people, I'd be crying, where is she? Where is she? They'd be like, don't worry, she's coming back. Suddenly, she got tired. I don't know what the devil talked to her. She decided that she was going to start exploiting me. She started holding my hand and taking me around to offices, people that she knew, grown men in places. This is time the war has calmed down. It hasn't stopped, but there's a ceasefire. Like I said, you can move around, but you just have to be careful. We get to offices. I don't know what they've discussed behind my back, but I see these men give her money and she leaves me there. It's by the grace of God that none of them ever did anything to me. She would come back like nothing was wrong. She'd just see me there and she'd take me away. Through this, one day, she left me with this man, this huge fat man, and then he has no conscience whatsoever. When she left, he called me, come over here, come and sit on my lap. And I was like, no, you know. So he forced me to come and sit on him. When I sat on his lap, he started touching me, and I started shouting and shouting and shouting. And then she came, and he told her to come back. Not knowing, I thought she had left me, but she was right downstairs. So he used the intercom and told her, come and get your daughter. Haven't you explained everything to her? Doesn't she know I'm supposed to be sleeping with her right now? What's going on? You know? So she comes back and she starts beating me because she's like, I'm